Hey everybody, welcome back to Just for Fun. This is my first video in a very long time. I've been having a hard time coming up with a consistent idea of what I want to talk about on here, and I figured out that there's one thing that I always go back to, and that's movies. And you can see there's a ton behind me right now. Over the years, I have amassed probably 200 movies. And a lot of those come from Black Friday because, they always have really good deals on movies. So I always stock up then. And I just, finally, when we moved to our new place, got these shelves behind me and finally got those put up and where I like them. So talking about movies is what I want to do, but more specifically, I really enjoy horror movies, and I wanted to talk about specifically today my favorites of the ones that I own. I pulled out all of our movies and took a look at all of them and picked out my top 5 as well as 3 honorable mentions. And I just want to talk to you about those movies, why I like them. They range from paranormal, aliens, and demonic presence, and one of them even has to deal with like murders and a serial killer. So there's a wide variety. I didn't want to narrow it down and just stick to like paranormal movies or serial killers. So I just kind of stuck to horror, scary movies all in general. But I want to talk about those movies now and get into this with our honorable mentions. The honorable mentions aren't in any specific order. So yeah, let's talk about those. So the first movie of honorable mentions is The Strangers. And that's the one where the couple goes to the house and the people in the masks show up and like get into the house, and then, spoiler alert, they end up killing them. Hopefully by this point, this is about scary movies. So, sorry, there's probably going to be a lot of spoilers, but yeah. So this movie really freaked me out, and especially now it still does because, I'm an adult. My husband and I live together, and it's always a fear of mine that somebody's going to break into the house and kill me. Probably. Yeah, I have a hard time watching this movie when I'm home alone because it always has me looking over my shoulder thinking, oh God, there's somebody in a mask with a knife trying to kill me. But that's a really, really good one. And I like that, there's so many aspects of that movie where the people are in the house and they don't even know it. And it's just, yeah, I love the suspense in that one. So that one's definitely an honorable mention for me. Another one is The Visit. And that's the one where these 2 kids go and visit their grandparents for the first time. The relationship between their mother and the grandparents has been kind of rough. So they're going to visit them and try and build up that relationship. They've never met them before. So they get to their house and, they're staying with them. Everything's fine. And then they get more and more weirded out by them. And again, spoiler alert, turns out that the couple that they've been staying with broke out of a psychiatric hospital, murdered their actual grandparents, and took their places. Yeah. I think the creepiest part in that movie is when they're playing under the patio and the grandma comes under there and she's like crawling on her. That part gets me every time. It's horrible. And then the final honorable mention is Mirrors. So this one had me messed up. Like, I had a hard time looking into mirrors after I watched this one because I always thought that my reflection was going to start moving and like slit its throat or something. That one, fantastic. It's a little bit gory if you haven't seen it, but it is really, really, really good. Yeah, that one is good. I love that one really a lot. It's very good. So with that, we're going to get into our top 5. And I think with those, I'm actually going to pull the movies out and read the about section of those. And then talk about why I gave them the ranking that I did. So give me just a second.
A few moments later.
So the first of my top 5 scary movies, we'll start with number 5. And I don't have the actual case for it. I bought this movie secondhand. A lot of the movies that I do own are secondhand. You can get them a little bit cheaper that way. But it is Static. Static came out in 2012, and the synopsis of the movie is: a couple dealing with marital problems in the wake of their child's death finds their lives further complicated by a hysterical visitor to their secluded home than the appearance of masked men. So somebody comes to their house, and they're just like, they're freaked out because this person's there. And then these masked men show up. But the more you get into the movie, you realize that the person that's in their home, they used to live there before, and they haven't been able to leave because their kid died there. The masked men that are coming into their home, too, are ghost investigators. They're paranormal investigators. And so the people that are in the home, you find out that they're dead. Yeah, it's very weird. It's like The Others with Nicole Kidman, how they're in the house, and then these other people come inside, but it turns out they're dead too. Yeah, so it's really interesting that, the couple's dead the whole time, and the couple that's living there currently, that are still alive, bring in paranormal investigators to figure out what's going on in their home. And it's just, it rocks the ghosts world. And it was just a very good movie. I recommend that one a lot. I saw this one for the first time in college, so about 6 years ago. My roommate introduced me to it, and I had to buy it because I really, really liked it. Number 4 on my list, I think I put it at number 4 because of the nostalgia factor. I saw this one for the first time probably in middle school, and it is Signs. So it's the Mel Gibson movie where they live out in the cornfield, and Joaquin Phoenix is in it, and it's the one where aliens come. And it is, I believe it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. From M. Night Shyamalan, the writer-director of The Sixth Sense, also a fantastic movie, comes the story of the Hess family in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, who wake up one morning to find a 500-foot crop circle in their backyard. Graham Hess, Mel Gibson, and his family are told extraterrestrials are responsible for the sign in their field. They watch with growing dread the news of crop circles being found all over the world. Signs is the emotional story of one family on one farm as they encounter the terrifying last moments of life as the world is being invaded. This movie freaked me out the older I got because, one, I think that there could be aliens out there. I have no reason to believe that there isn't, but I also have no reason to believe that there really is aliens. And the fact that they live up by a cornfield, when we moved to Nebraska, there was nothing but cornfields. So this freaked me out. And I don't know, it's just a very beautifully done movie. I absolutely love this movie. It's fantastic. The worst part about this movie, I think, is when they're in the basement after the aliens get into their home and the kid starts to have an asthma attack and he backs up to that little, the coal chute, I think it is, and the alien reaches through and starts grabbing him. That part is messed up. Okay, it's terrifying. So moving on to number 3, this movie, I've just seen it in the last probably 4 years or so again. I found it in college. I don't even remember how I came across it. Our library on campus had movies you could rent, and I'm pretty sure I rented it from there and watched it and fell in love with it, and I had to buy it. So it is The Last Exorcism. Very, very good movie. Like I said, these movies cover a wide variety of topics. The first one was paranormal. The second one was aliens. This one is demonic entities. Obviously, it's possession. There's exorcisms in it. And so this one is really, really creepy. It takes place in a smallish town. That you're supposed to believe that these people are Hicks. The family's pretty religious. So it's a father, his daughter, and son. And what's her name? Nell or Mel? I think it's Nell. I think it's Nell. I can't remember. I haven't seen it in a while. But the synopsis of it, it says, after years of eliciting money from desperate believers, charismatic preacher Reverend Cotton Marcus decides to reveal his fraudulence by documenting one last exorcism performed on another disturbed religious fanatic. But after he and a film crew arrive at the Sweetser farm, Marcus encounters a horrific scene beyond his wildest imaginings. A blood-drenched farmhouse with a teenage girl held in the grip of true evil. Now, Marcus must find a way to save the girl and stop the terror, or die trying. So this one, I mean, it's creepy. Like, the acting that she does in this movie is fantastic. She's super creepy in it. Exorcism movies are always super creepy, again, because it's one of those things where, like, sorry, my dog made a sound and it scared me. Exorcisms are, again, one of those things that I'm like, I don't have any reason to believe that it can't happen, but again, for the opposite, I don't know if it could. So there's that element of why it's freaky for me. But again, there's one scene in this movie that's particularly freaky for me. It's after they figure out that she's possessed. They go into her room looking for her because they hear creepy noises, and they go in there, they're looking around the room, they're not seeing anything, and of course it's dark out, so they're just using flashlights. And I think any time in a movie when they use a flashlight and you only see like this much of a space, I can't, because like it's like playing the Slender Man game, because you're moving around, it's pitch black, you just have the flashlight, and you want to see what's going on, but you're also terrified what you're gonna show. It's that type of thing. So anyway, they're looking in her room for her, shining the light, they can't find her, they hear something off to the right of them, they look up and she's on the top of like a wardrobe, and she like jumps off, and it's freaky as hell. But again, it's mainly just because of that restricted view, because they're using flashlights and cameras. So getting on to number 2, this one is more of a classic. It's the oldest of all of the movies, I think, that I have here. But it is a classic. I did just see it for the first time in the last couple of years, and already I think it's one of my favorite. Obviously, it's number 2, which is ironic because it is 7. And again, we bought this one used again. So this one, let's see, when did it come out? 1995. But it's got Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow. Fantastic movie. From director David Fincher, who also did Fight Club, comes the psychological thriller about 2 detectives on the trail of John Doe, a serial killer who chooses his victims according to the 7 deadly sins. Just like Mirrors, this one's a little bit gory as well, but it also has to do with murder, so like that's to be expected. But this one is fantastic. I don't know why I'm so fascinated by serial killers, but statistically, the people that listen to like true crime podcasts and stuff, it's more often going to be a woman. I think it's like 70 or 80% are women, the audience that does that. So it makes a little bit of sense. It's just interesting to learn about serial killers and why they do what they do. And if that makes me weird, so be it. But this one is really, really good. So it's gory, because this person is killing the victims based on the 7 deadly sins, and it's really cool. And the version that we bought, so it's got the case that you slide out, and I love this because it's like a notebook, and then it opens with the spread, and it's so cool. Gotta figure out which way is left and right here. But I love that. Like I just love this extra element of stuff here. And there's all sorts of extra material on the second disc. I haven't watched any of that. Morgan Freeman is like the aged detective, and Brad Pitt is kind of like a rookie, and he really plays off of his emotions. And he and Gwyneth Paltrow's character are together, and as they're working through this, as they're figuring out the investigation, figuring out who the serial killer is, Gwyneth Paltrow's character actually becomes the final victim. That's the giant twist at the end, is the what's in the box, and it's her head. And Morgan Freeman figures that out before Brad Pitt's character does, and he tries to tell him not to do it, but Brad Pitt listens more to the serial killer than he does to Brad Pitt or to Morgan Freeman, and finds his, can't remember if they were married or if they were just dating, but finds her head inside. Fantastic movie. Little gory, but you know, if you haven't seen it before, you know, when I watched it for the first time, that twist at the end, blew my mind. It was so good. So I love this movie. Before we get to number 1, I want to say something. I don't know if any of you guys do this, but when I'm watching movies with my husband Daniel, he always has a tendency to figure out the endings before we actually get to that point. And I don't know, he'll like have that epiphany moment where he's like, ah, and I'm like, you just figured it out. And it drives me nuts because like, I'm not even thinking about these movies like that. I'm just in the moment enjoying it, not trying to predict the ending or anything, but he'll like get it. And I'm always angry that he gets it, but it's cute. Like that's our dynamic. So rounding out the top 5 for my favorite scary movies that I own personally. This one, again, I saw in college for the first time. I believe it was one of those ones where, again, the library had it and I rented it. Our school library was pretty dope. They had a ton of movies and they were all alphabetical. And I'm pretty sure Daniel and I decided at one point that we're just going to go down the list and watch all the scary movies that we could. So number 1 is a movie that came out in 2014. It is As Above, So Below. And this takes place in the catacombs of Paris that are, you know, below the streets in the catacombs. And it's creepy. Like even the case freaks me out because once I get the insert back on. So it's like, you know, as above, so below, and it's like the ground is here and the sky's up here, and you've got the Eiffel Tower, and then just like all these skeleton skulls, and gross. So the synopsis on this one on the back is: miles of twisting catacombs lie beneath the streets of Paris, the eternal home to countless souls. When a team of explorers ventures into the uncharted maze of bones, they uncover the dark secret that lies within this city of the dead. A journey into madness and terror. As Above, So Below reaches deep into the human psyche to reveal the personal demons that come back to haunt us all. So this movie has a bunch of different elements, and oh my god, I just realized that the guy that's in this is the same guy from Superstore. Right? I have to look at that now. I'm pretty sure that this is the same guy. So anyway, this chick, she's going on this mission to find the Philosopher's Stone. And as a Harry Potter nerd, that got to me. That made me happy, but also at the same time, I'm like, this isn't how it happened in Harry Potter. But anyway, so they go down into the catacombs. First of all, they take a tour of the catacombs, which I guess you can do in Paris. I would never, ever, ever want to do that because hell no. But they go on a tour to learn what they can, and then they get a local to take them in to like a secret entrance, and they basically go into the catacombs looking for where she believes the Philosopher's Stone is. And on the way, you know, all these different creepy things happen. They meet up with somebody who has been lost in the catacombs for years and years and years, and this person, you know, you can't see anything down there. This person has gone crazy, if he's even still alive, which I don't think he is. It's hard to say. But it's creepy. Like, he is creepy, and just like all this different stuff, like it said in the synopsis, you know, different things from their backgrounds, their, you know, growing up comes back and is at the forefront of what they're going through in the catacombs. And it's just, it's creepy. Like, one of them lost their brother in a car that went on fire, and the car shows up in the catacombs and it's on fire, and you can hear the brother screaming, and it's sad. And her dad killed himself, and so she has to relive that in the catacombs, and it's, you know, it's just sad seeing what everybody goes through. Another element that makes this movie so creepy for me personally is I have a fear of tight spaces. The thought of, you know, I have nightmares. I have nightmares where I'm going down a slide and the slide gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually I'm stuck and I like starve to death because I'm stuck. So, or like, you know, shimmying down, like a hole or something, or, you know, going cave diving. I could never go cave diving because I'd always be afraid that, like, you know, I'd get into a position where it gets smaller and smaller and smaller again, and I get stuck and die. So that's an element that makes this one really, really creepy for me too, is, you know, going underground in these tunnels. And there's one scene in the movie where they have to get from one section of the tunnel to another, but there's not a real entrance. And they have to crawl over a bunch of skulls and skeletons and bones and everything to get to the other side of the tunnel. And I swear they only have like this much space. It's not very much. And that part gives me such anxiety every single time. But it is a fantastic movie. And the first time I watched this one, I swear I had nightmares for a week because there were just all those different elements, and then specifically my personal fears. And that's what lands this one on my top 5 in the top spot. Again, if you want to watch this one, it is, I didn't really give away the ending. But this one is very, very good. It's a little bit gory. Again, at one point they have to like swim through blood. It's kind of gross. But yeah, this movie's fantastic. So really, any of these top 5 movies, if you're into horror movies, I'd say give these a try. Maybe don't watch them alone. I feel like Static, you could get away with watching alone, but maybe not the others. 7 you probably could as well, since that one's about serial killers, but they're all very, very good movies. So those are my top 5 horror movies that I own, as well as my 3 honorable mentions. If there are any horror movies that you think I should see, drop a trailer in the comments and I'll watch that. If it's one I haven't seen before, I'll make a video of myself reacting to the trailer. And I also at some point want to go over all of the scary movies that are coming out in 2020 that I'm excited for, and watch those trailers and kind of review those on a video as well. And then, you know, go see those and rate them. But for now, those are my favorite scary movies from the ones that I own, and I will hopefully make another video soon.